Have you ever felt stuck in your growth journey, wondering how to build resilience in the face of challenges?
Or maybe you're looking to shift your mindset and unlock your full potential.
Well, if you said yes, then you are in the right place.
Welcome to the Stretch Zone. I'm Hannah.
And I am Feds.
And here we explore self-development, nurture resilience, and embrace the mindset shifts that help you grow beyond your limits.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Feds. Welcome back today. How are you today?
I'm good. It's getting hot in here, you know. I'm not used to this weather anymore. And being back in Italy, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I moved back, to be honest. But it's now that it's really now that it's really happening, I'm like, holy cow. Yeah, I'm just not used to that anymore. How have you been? How was your week?
Good, been busy, nothing too dramatic, but just everything is kind of ticking along. Got my aircon fixed, thank goodness. That was a bit of a worry last week. And yes, we are hitting the really hot months in Atlanta. And if anyone's ever been here, it does get hot and steamy for about 3 to 4 months in that summer. And we've definitely hit that time.
It's like stupidly hot here. It's going to be like that as well, which makes me think like, maybe I'm gonna miss British summer. I know. I thought I'd never say that, but maybe I'm gonna miss British summer. You know, but I don't know.
One year when I was living, I think I've told this story before. One year when I was living in Brisbane, and it was obviously the summer is the opposite time to the UK. And I was talking to my mum back in England, and it was January, and my mum said, "Oh, Hannah, if I look outside and see another grey sky, I'm going to scream." And I said, "If I look outside and see another blue sky, I'm going to scream."
That's how to make a lot of enemies very quickly.
I know,
you know? Right? Especially if you're speaking to people in the UK, and you're going to have everyone is going to be so jealous. And you know, funny enough, it is connected to what we're going to be talking about today, because this idea of being in a wonderful place where you really want to live, where you really have all the things that you desire, but then at the same time, you're feeling a bit guilty because of that. You know, the expat guilt is something that often we don't talk about. And we've been using the word expat, but to be honest, it's pretty much anyone living in a place that's that is far away from the family, right? So anyone who lives far away from family, relatives, friends. So it's something that it can become quite heavy, and it's often unspoken. We tend to have this idea that people living away from home have these dream lives, right? I remember when I used to live in London, people used to tell me, "Oh my gosh, you're so lucky. You know, you can go see all these amazing concerts." I mean, yes, the weather is crap, but who cares? You know, there are like pubs everywhere, plenty of people, international city, trendy, cool. And it is, I'm not gonna lie. But then at the same time, I rarely had the courage to say, I'm actually feeling a little bit guilty, you know, when Christmas comes, when birthdays come, I'm like, should I be home? Am I in the right place? Yeah. Am I missing out? Like, should I, especially also when, you know, when someone is in need, when friends are feeling down, when family members need a little bit of support, and you're like, should I be home? Should I really be here? And oftentimes people have a little bit of a different impression of where you are in life compared to where you really are in life. So people feel like you are
social media.
Oh yeah. 100%. So it's not just about being homesick, thinking, "Oh, I really want to go to, I don't know, my friend's birthday party, but it's a bit more of an emotional tension that we can feel, between belonging to a place and becoming the person that we're supposed to become, staying close to the people we love, but at the same time stepping away and growing. So it's something that I've experienced multiple times, and
Yeah.
probably you as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about it in a moment or two, but I'm going through it right now, having to figure out some big decisions that always seem to come up in our life. I wondered right now, and again, we can come back to this, but is that part of the reason why you moved back to Italy? That's
I mean, partially. I think it wasn't really. It was a little bit of guilt, yes, I have to say. I think I finally realized that I needed to be here for my family mainly.
yeah,
But I mean, then at the same time, I also wanted to be here because I was missing a support system. So there is a whole conversation that we can have on altruism and what altruism really means. But yeah, in a nutshell, one of the reasons why I came back home was also because my time was, the time had come. I was ready to be back.
yeah, yeah. And
Um,
And you mentioned, and I think that's an important one to mention, that it is different to just feeling homesick. So
mhm,
this sort of guilty feeling, and now I'm not a mother, but I kind of liken it a little bit to that sort of mum guilt that people refer to, especially for working mothers. They want to work for
yeah,
themselves. Some mothers need to work, unfortunately, just to financially support. But then there are mothers who really choose that they want a career just as much as they want motherhood. And then they're
mhm,
just constantly in this sort of flux of feeling like they're juggling and feeling, unfortunately, a sense of guilt. And
yeah,
I sort of liken it to that feeling in terms of this life that I've chosen. Um,
yeah,
some of it is a choice, but some of it isn't 100% a choice. But ultimately, I have chosen certain things, and that has led me to live really far away from my family that I grew up with. And for some people, there's definitely influences that are going to sort of change their experience and their flux of feeling guilty. So some cultures, it is much more of a cultural and a family conditioning. So
mhm,
depending on where you were raised, your family values, then
mhm,
that feeling of guilt can be an awful lot stronger.
mhm,
And that can, be like this unwritten rule that you do not live far away from your family,
yeah,
that family is incredibly important and we should always be sticking together. So if you've chosen then to move yourself away from that, there can be guilt that is brought on from yourself because you've been brought up in a certain way. And also then there's the extra added guilt of your friends and family, in particular, probably parents,
yeah,
saying certain things that do make you feel the guilt
yeah,
increasing. Um,
yeah,
you know, just things like, when are you coming home? That question, if you've been asked that as someone that doesn't live at home, that cuts quite deep. And I think sometimes family members that do say that don't realize how deep that can cut.
yeah,
And then there's, just to sort of think about this, there's the emotional and there's the logical. So our emotions and our logicality don't always match,
no,
unfortunately. um so emotionally, I know, for example, I the older I'm getting and the longer I'm away from home, I do actually feel more guilty. The
mhm,
older my parents are getting, I've noticed that that guilt has risen. um,
yeah,
I'm going to hold my hand up and say my parents are the most beautiful humans ever. They are very good at not making me feel guilty, but that
mhm,
doesn't mean it isn't there. So
Yeah.
I know I'm super lucky that they really refrain from saying certain things that could allude to I guess it's about feeling like we're being judged as well
Yeah.
for our
Yeah.
choices. So then we
Yeah.
can feel very guilty about that. I know that
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I don't have that, but yet I still feel guilty. So for people that do have the external sort of pressure, that can
Yeah.
really builds a lot. And I was talking about how the logical thinking something through doesn't always match the emotional. So where I'm going with that is um, unfortunately, sometimes it is just the right decision for you or your
Yeah.
family. So I'm talking specifically about myself and my husband and my dog. She's part of our family. Um, and the decisions that we've had to make for us don't always match where our heart really wants to be.
Hmm.
So it's more, especially in the last few years, we've had to really hustle to make sure that we provide for ourselves as a family and don't lean on other family members. We've had to lean on other family members, but we've been trying to rebuild our life since
Hmm.
pandemic. Um, so that can be a real challenging element to verbalize clearly to our friends and family
Hmm.
without our friends and family back home misunderstanding what it's really like to live our life. So
Yeah.
we try really hard to not offend people, but sometimes that just happens without trying, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned earlier about how social media plays a role into this sort of guilty feeling. And in this day and age when we are so connected via the internet, it is we're so disconnected from the reality of the situations, right? We all know this deep down, but it's really hard to detach ourselves from that. So we're seeing certain things. So people might see pictures of me in an exotic place compared to being at home, and they jump to conclusions that, oh, she must be living her best life. And at
Hmm.
times I am living my best life, absolutely, but it isn't exactly what that image portrays. And again,
Yeah.
the same in reverse. We're seeing photographs of people in family gatherings and maybe at weddings that we've missed. And that then triggers even more sort of discomfort when actually maybe that wedding would have been really annoying to go to. Who knows? We don't
Yeah.
actually know.
Yeah.
Although, God, I would love to be invited to a wedding. When was the last time you went to a wedding, Feds?
You know what? Last year, actually, yes,
Oh,
and yeah, I was lucky enough. Well,
oh,
I
your
was,
own.
you know, well, yeah, my own, and also, no, to be honest, like the last time I was a guest, I was at friend's wedding here in Italy, and I traveled from the UK to come and go to the wedding, of course. But it would have been different if I had still been living in the US, for example. When I was far away from, it's different when you are close to friends and family, as in I can jump on a plane and be here in a couple of hours. But when I was living in Florida, it was completely different. Of course, I wouldn't have been able to do that. A friend of mine is getting married in November, and it would be in Florida. And now I'm here, so it would be quite challenging to go all the way to Florida. So the problem is, of course, once you start moving around and you start making friends and you start getting to know people in so many different places, you are almost guaranteed a life of guilt, because it doesn't matter where you are. You will always feel like you are missing out on something that someone else is living, and that there needs to be a sort of mindset shift, because simply the fact that you are feeling guilty, it doesn't mean that you are doing anything wrong. And the fact that you miss people from around the world, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to live a sad life. It's just that you care about others.
Absolutely. That's so important what you just said.
So,
So important. And guilt often shows up actually when our values are in conflict. So it really means that we care, that
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
love and that we care.
Yeah.
And you also said something really important there, which is guilt is just going to be there.
Yeah.
It's not something that we can actually avoid.
No.
It
No.
isn't. And it's
No.
therefore, how do we learn to accept, live with it, and acknowledge it, um, in a way that doesn't pull us down, in a way that doesn't influence our choices that might actually not be right for us?
Yeah.
Well,
It is harder, like you mentioned, having a family that is very supportive. And I
yeah,
think it is very, very important to have people around you who don't make you feel guilty because you make a specific choice.
yeah,
And I think it's also a cultural thing. There are cultures where
it is.
it is virtually impossible to do something different from what your parents want from you. And so most times your parents want you to stay close, they want you to get married, they want you to have a very traditional lifestyle. So I am fully aware that making decisions really depends on where you were born, what kind of education you have, what kind of freedom you have.
Yeah,
If you have the opportunity, and I think ultimately it boils down to common sense. Like making the decision of moving abroad, knowing that you are doing it because of, I don't know, for example, job opportunities,
yeah,
learning new skills, expanding your network. Like there might be a lot of different reasons why you want to move somewhere, and you know that in the long term, your career is going to benefit from it. Your network is going to benefit from it. So I would not be able to do the job I'm doing at the moment if I didn't do what I did in the past.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
and so
same.
of course, you have to make a decision. And I think the hardest part is not really making the decision, is to live with it, and finding ways to cope with the guilt, because inevitably it's going to creep up on you. Um, I feel that the more I'm growing, similar to what you were talking about, the more I'm getting older, the more I'm feeling that I have responsibilities, and I have places to be.
Yes.
Mm, I feel more connected to what is my extended family as well. So yeah, I feel like things are changing, have changed. I have my own family right now, so not just my parents and my friends here, but things have changed in the last few years. So eventually, I'm going to have to ask myself the question: where do I want to be with my family? Where do I want my kids, when there will be kids? Where do I want my kids to grow up? So it's constantly shifting, and eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. That was making me think about my journey of living overseas over the last, it's been nearly 15 years. So I remember when I first moved overseas, it was purely for adventure. I never
Hmm.
thought, oh, well, this is it. I'm never coming home.
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought. I was just in that headspace of adventure. I was 26, 27, 26 when I left the UK. And it was all about exploration. My family were 100% behind me. Um, and over the years, those moves have all been for slightly different
Hmm.
reasons. Then it became about moving for love, um, for companionship. And to be honest with you, now the reasons are financial reasons. It's
There we go. Yeah.
unfortunate, but that's the truth. Um, but there are certain responsibilities that come up, and we have to constantly, the two of us, gauge, okay, what is the most responsible thing that we can do at the moment. And that can
Mm-hmm.
be a hard thing to relay to certain people, because I'm going to gently and kindly say that yes, my family are very understanding, but different cultures are different. And I do believe my husband's find it potentially more challenging that we don't live where they live. They're still very supportive, but definitely speak about it in a different way to
Yeah.
my family do. Um, and so I know what it can feel like to have other types of pressures. And we would, deep down, if money was no issue, we would live in both, either Australia or England.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. We do feel our own sense of responsibility to be closer to our family.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really tricky one, because we're both from two different places. So, like you and your partner, that's challenging when you're from two completely different places. So, again, it's something that we've always, since we've got together, just had to know that one of us, at the moment it's both of us, but one of us is always going to have more of that sense of
Yeah.
guilt, is the topic that we're talking about today. But yeah, that there is that element. And we've just literally had to go through, last year we had a job opportunity that came up in Australia, and we ended up walking away from it. This year there's a job opportunity that's come up in the UK. This is for my husband. And again, we're probably going to walk away from it. Unfortunately, it just doesn't um, provide enough. We're in our mid 40s. We've had to rebuild our life. Um, there are certainly lots of things that I could sort of list off as to
Yeah.
why we probably are going to have to walk away from that opportunity and stick
Yeah.
the game plan of what we're up to at the moment. And it's been really challenging, really challenging.
Yeah.
I worry about talking to my parents about it, because I don't want to get their hopes up.
Yeah.
Um, but I have spoken to them about it, and it's a difficult one. But I think I think being open and honest about it as much as you can is really the best way forward. Trying
Yeah.
to discuss it with people, even if you think that they don't get it, you've done
Mm-hmm.
your job. You've done your
Mm-hmm.
piece.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, one thing that I was thinking about, when I first moved to London many years ago, I did it mainly because of a sense of adventure. And I wasn't really thinking about, oh, how long I'm going to stay here, right? My dad thought, oh, yeah, she's coming back in a month.
Oh,
Bit-
months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was like, yeah, I'm going to see you in a month. And I'm like, okay. So I probably took it as a challenge. And 17 years later, I came back. So definitely didn't go as he planned. But my point is that throughout this whole journey, I started rethinking, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And so, of course, my role as a daughter, as a friend, was not just, oh, I need to be close to them because they need to see me every day. Because if I had to, if I needed to, I would have come back, for an amount of time that was reasonable. But the point is that I need to create my own life, my own career. I need to be able to have my own way to, sustain myself, and being able to have the career that I want to have, because otherwise I would just be with them forever, be with my parents forever, and that's definitely not what I want to do. Like, my role is also to become the person that I'm supposed to become.
Yeah.
And if I do that, I also give myself more chances. Now that I am back, I'm definitely able to get, if I wanted to, I could get a better job compared to what I could have had if I'd never left. You know what I mean? So you need to reframe your role in that sense. Think about what I am going to gain in the long run. And there's a reason why I am doing this. It's not just because I want to be away from people, you know. Um, and I
Yeah.
think, yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, and I think it's really useful. I'm going back to something that you mentioned before, that guilt, when it does show up, it's actually just a signal to
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah,
Um, it doesn't mean that we have to react instantly to it. It's not a sentence, you know. Um, what we want to try to do is actually just sort of sit with that for a while and see if we can honor that feeling of guilt,
yeah,
and see whether we can figure out where that guilt is kind of coming from, what it's pointing to, and
yeah,
then see if there is another way that we can live with this value of whatever it is that's important to us
yeah,
without us self-sacrificing. So for
yeah,
some of us, to go and live back home or be close to friends and family just because of guilt
yeah.
is really not a good recipe. To do
No,
anything out of guilt is a recipe for disaster. And all of us can actually stand back and say that, you know.
yeah,
Um,
guaranteed.
all of us could sort of think about how that could play out for us as humans in any situation, and just know that, you know what, it's possible to have simultaneous things and feelings happen in life.
Yeah,
So actually this feeling of guilt can coexist with feelings of joy.
yeah,
I think sometimes we take emotions too literally and think, oh, well, I'm feeling like this. That must mean I have to act upon that in this certain way. When actually, we're complex humans, which is a good thing. We are able to have sorrow and joy together, anger and freedom together. Um, it is possible to actually have joy and guilt together,
yeah, yeah.
and let that be there.
And you know what? The thing is, the more we talk about it, the easier it becomes. Oftentimes we don't name our feelings, and because we don't name it, we're not labeling exactly what's happening, and so we struggle to understand what is happening. Why do we feel a certain way? Um,
And
it,
then we
it
act actually in a
yeah,
really suspicious or strange way to the other person. So therefore,
yeah,
then you might end up doing things that actually other people question you on, and they
yeah,
because they don't know the root of it. And if they found out you were doing it because of guilt, they'd be horrified.
yeah,
If we
yeah,
moved back to live down the road from my husband's family, and they knew that was just purely out of guilt, they would actually be horrified.
yeah. Yeah,
Would.
absolutely. I mean, I think that if I found myself in the opposite situation, I would never want someone to move or live close to me just out of guilt. It would definitely not lead to anything positive.
No.
But, once again, I think because we don't talk about it that much, especially um, even within the community. Like I'm thinking when I was living in London, when I was living in the US, um, it was very hard to have these kind of conversations. No one ever wanted, I mean, probably you would have every now and then someone that would say, oh, I don't know. It's my niece's christening this weekend, and I can't be there. And that's it. That was the beginning and the end of the conversation, right? And
Yeah.
everyone would be like, "Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Oh, it's a shame." And that's it. Like instead of unpacking a little bit more what's happening, and just talk about it in a more constructive way, because
Yeah.
there could be a constructive outcome to this, like you are not there in this moment, but you're gonna be there in the future in a different shape or form that's probably going to be better for you, and it's going to be better for the other person.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the topics that comes up with my coaching clients. A big topic that I work with my clients on is the decision making of
Mm-hmm.
moving. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they may be moving somewhere for the first time, or they might be already somewhere far away, and they're deciding on their next move. And a large portion of that is to do with what other people think and feel, because that's usually where guilt comes from, is actually thinking about what expectations are put on us from others, and then trying to decipher their next move on their actual values and
Yeah.
things that really are necessary for them to thrive and grow and progress in life, or is it that that sort of tie to other people's opinions that are getting in the way? So we kind of work through the chaos of that.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, Feds, so, when you were living away and you did probably feel guilty, what are the kind of things that actually did work for you in terms of communicating with home? Or was there anything that you can remember that just that actually allowed you to feel less guilty? Um,
I think that the main thing that helped me was it was really reminding myself why I was doing it.
yeah. Yeah.
That to me, communicating with my family has always been very complicated.
Sure.
Uh, so so no, commu- that's definitely not something that had an impact. But then at the same time, I think I've also had a lot of freedom. My parents never told me, "Oh, why did you move away? Why you're not coming back?" Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So my parents. But in general, let's say that communication in my family is not really a big thing. Having said that, I think probably because communication between us is not great, I especially when I was younger. Now I'm feeling a little bit more settled, but when I was younger, I used to journal a lot. I used to think a lot about emotions, and I it was to me it was like I wanted to be different from my family in terms of communicating. So I talked to myself a lot, and so in that sense, I used to label my feelings and think about how my experience is changing me, what kind of person I'm becoming, why am I doing this. It's not just because I want to say that I live in London, and it's cool to say that you live in London. Like there was a deeper reason, and that was really what kept me there.
Yeah.
And another thing, I think it was every single time I came back home, I didn't really see that things had changed that much. And
Hmm.
so I was like, why coming back? Like why do I need to come back to a place where everything is always the same? I want to be a different person, and to be a different person I need to be in a place where things are changing.
Yeah.
And of course,
You found your why to
yeah,
keep.
yeah, yeah. 17 years later, of course, things have changed, right? So, but
Yeah.
it took a lot longer than what it took me. Like when I was 22, 23 years old, I was already living by myself. I had my rent to pay. I had a job. Like most of my friends still lived with their parents, which was fine. Um, but
Yeah.
I
That.
definitely had a different experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing today. We haven't got any huge, like, scientific kind of
Not today.
arguments today. Today is very much about just sharing our lived experience and knowing that we're not alone
Yeah.
in having these feelings. And I think the biggest thing that comes out of this is a constant check in with your values, what drives you,
Mhm.
what's working
Mhm.
for you, what isn't, is probably a necessity. So to just blindly keep going, to let that guilt keep on increasing, is not a way
No.
forward. So I just really encourage listeners to share, to speak about what's going on for you, with other people that kind of know what you're going through.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear, kind of just your your experiences with this. If there's any time that you've sort of done something out of guilt and it's really backfired on you, I'd love to know that story. Um, and I guess what tends to trigger you in terms
Yeah.
of that feeling, and let's share that amongst us.
Yeah, definitely. As always, you know that you can find us on Instagram, on YouTube, on Threads. We're at the Stretch Zone _ podcast everywhere. So come and find us. Let us know what you think. Share this episode. Let the world know that we are out here. We would love to hear from all of you. And the next time we see each other, oh, I love this one. We're going to talk about limiting beliefs, especially the ones that shape our decisions. This is something that I talk about very often in my coaching as well. So we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about this, and we're going to understand how we can start rewriting and rewiring, changing the perspective, and you know, do something about what keeps you stuck.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Wrapping up today's episode, remember, you don't have to face change alone.
If you'd like to connect or learn more about working with us individually, reach out to us through our Instagram account at @thestretchzone_podcast, or find our emails in the footnotes to this episode. We're here to support you on your journey, each in your own way.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Stretch Zone. If today's discussion resonated with you, remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with anyone who might benefit. Until next time, keep stretching beyond your comfort zone.